Stories number 1, AITA for pulling out of a trip after finding out my BF is cheating with someone from work. So I thought my BF was cheating on me. Text from girl kept popping up and I asked about her. He said she was a friend and enjoyed her company. I never met her, this new friend, or was told about her. Fast forward, he tells her they can't be friends. She blows up and confesses she actually liked him. I thought it was wild he didn't pick up the cues. After this, I find messages from an unsaved number, and they have been meeting up and hanging out. He plays as if he's a loner and needs free time. This F is actually at his job, and different from the first mentioned girl. Mind you, he met me at work years ago, and we were both single. He pursued me. We have a trip coming up, and I don't want to go now. I just want to break up and move out. I'm tempted to message this lady and let her know what's going on, just out of the sake of pettiness, or maybe to scare them both. Trust has never been an issue till we moved to this new city for his new job. Stories number 2. I had making love with a girl I shouldn't have, and now I might die. This is all my own fault, so there's really no one else to blame. I'm 17, right? And not a super popular guy at my 6th form, attached to my secondary school. I'm not one of those weirdos with no friends, but I have a small circle. I guess I'm not the typical nerd-ish. This whole situation sounds like a movie plot, but that's my issue. I think I got so caught up in it, so wrapped up in the fact it was like I was in my own film, that I made the wrong decisions and did stuff I shouldn't have, and now I'm kind of fucked. There's this girl in my year who I've known of since year 7. Very pretty, dark brown hair, big green eyes, and very popular, but she was kind of the mean girl type. She didn't do anything hang outright awful, but some of the people she was friends with did. She herself would gossip. She's cold to people, doesn't talk to people outside her group, judgmental, not a nice girl. And her boyfriend, who she's been going out with since we were all 16, is an asshole. Like he's got to be actively trying to be the definition of an asshole. He's rude, makes fun of other people, immature, can't keep his hands to himself. I steered clear of that whole thing. It was until the summer. I got invited to this big house party everyone was going to because year 12 was finished and the girl was there, let's just call her Meg. She went with her boyfriend and friends and got really drunk. I walked into the toilet to see her sitting on her knees crying because she didn't feel well. None of them thought to look for her? So I helped her find her phone and call her parents, and I waited with her until her mom picked her up. She didn't say much to me except for thanks, and then she left. I thought she'd break it off with her boyfriend, but she didn't. I heard. I made a few friends at said party, so I got invited to a lot more over the summer. Same thing happened. I'd see her sitting alone, clearly off her face, and none of her friends were helping her. Not even her boyfriend. When it got to the point, I was worried no one would help her. I went over to her and helped her call her mom to get her, and she went outside for air, so I went with her. I didn't get talking to her. I didn't want her to get the wrong impression, but she started talking to me. She must have been really drunk because it's the first time she's exchanged words with me, and we've been in the same English class since we were 11. She's very good at English. She was just talking about the weather and plans for summer and how her feet hurt and what universities we were thinking of. I have to admit I was really nervous talking to her, but it was a bit funny. She's almost been this like too good for me person, and here she is, trying to get me to engage in conversation with her. Anyways, speed through another 2 parties where the same thing keeps happening, right? And I'm getting pissed a bit at her, a lot at her friends. So, we're standing outside, and I don't want to engage in the talking we did the other 2 times. No, I asked her why she's drinking so much all the time, and she just comes right up with it. My dad's cheating on my mom. Didn't expect that, so I felt like a prick. She started talking about how it's been going on for 2 years, and she's so upset, confused, and angry, and she just wants to drink to forget because when she comes home drunk, her parents don't fight. They join forces to tell her off. I asked why her friends and her boyfriend don't care, but she says they don't know. No one knows. And then she left. Another party, same thing, except I intercepted her the second I arrived, really scared to approach her when she's not chatty because she's tipsy. And I told her she had to sort herself out tonight because I was getting shit-faced, bad fight with a friend. And she didn't say anything to me. It kinda sucked, I thought. IDK, we were kinda friends, so I drank a lot, but I didn't get blackout, I remember. I remember her coming over to me on the sofa and making sure I was okay and offering to make sure I got home okay. She even brushed off her friend to stay talking to me. She waited outside with me for my brother to pick me up. We talked about the fight with my friend, She gave me advice and waved goodbye, and I woke up to see she'd added me on Snap and Instagram. She messages asking if I was all good, and we stayed texting from there. I don't remember the details, but we ended up going out, her idea, just for a walk. I was worried we wouldn't be able to talk when we were both sober, but it was good. She talked mostly because I prefer to listen. She talked about her parents, about school, about her friends, and when I finally asked her why the stupid boyfriend, she said, because I could never love him, and I never want to be in love. Look at my mum. And I guess I liked her after that, because I was the one being judgmental about her, because she wasn't dumb or selfish or rude like I thought. She was just sad, very sad, and she wanted to fit in. She's very smart, very funny, but I'd never ruin it. We hung out a lot over summer and after school. In school we didn't talk because her boyfriend wouldn't like it. I think I knew she liked me, but I wasn't going to do anything. She had a boyfriend, and I wanted her friendship more than anything. I guess from the title you know that didn't last too long. Long story short, she called me at like 9 p.m. about a week ago, really upset, and asked me over. I cycled over, 15 mins, and realized she was home alone. Her parents went out to dinner, IDK. She was crying and telling me her boyfriend was putting the pressure on her to have making love with him after holding out on him for a year. She was crying because she said she didn't want her first time to be with him. She didn't want him to have it. I told her she had to break up with him, and she kinda agreed. She told me everyone at school thought she was a slut. I have to say they kinda do, but she'd done nothing more than kiss. We didn't have making love then, but something changed between us, and we both knew it. We hung out after school every day, and tonight she came over to mine, and she started telling me how she felt like no one knew her, how I did that. She was sorry, she was such a mess, and she had so much gone on. I told her I didn't mind, I liked her. She kissed me then, and I told her she shouldn't have, and she said she knew, and she was sorry, and then I kissed her. One thing led to another, and we had making love. I checked like 10 times she was 100% sure, but she said she was. It was hardly some serious, insane making love. We're both virgins. It was messy and a little painful for her at first, but I like her a lot, and I feel really glad she did it with me. She left an hour later, and now I'm worried. He's going to find out her BF, he will, or her friend will, or someone will, and then I'll die. He's crazy, he'll kill me. And I deserve it, right? I had making love with this girlfriend. I've been going out with her behind his back for 2 months now. What am I meant to do? I shouldn't have gotten involved with her in the first place. But like I said, I got wrapped up in the drama of it all. And I do like her. So much. She's beautiful and smart and funny and kind, and no one thinks it. None of her friends even care to know that. Everyone thinks she's some mean girl idiot, IDK slut. I used to as well, but she's not. It's just a front she puts up because she's scared to let people in. Am I even in? No clue. I can't tell anyone, obviously, so there's my confession. Editing this in, cause people ask TLDR, had making love with the popular girl at my school. She has a pathetic boyfriend who's using her, and I had some sort of secret, don't acknowledge it friendship. I'm that typical nerd. Kinda stressed her boyfriend's gonna know I slept with his GF. She and I were both virgins. Stories number 3. Drive up. Okay, then. I was at the drive-thru of a coffee place in Canada that is named after a hockey player who's far more famous for his donuts. I pulled up to the speaker and started to order my drink, donut, and the pack of hockey cards that I seemed to be addicted to buying. Could I have an XLT with 2 milks? I started my order, already wondering what card I'll pull. Drive up. Now I knew, logically, the person on the other end was being impatient and had assumed I only wanted a drink. But I'm tired of the phrase, sorry, I'm not done with my order yet, so I drove up. The cashier told me my total and handed me the debit machine and was surprised when I said that I also wanted cards and a donut. I think the kicker was when I said I assumed he couldn't hear me, so told me to drive up and finish my order. It was a minor inconvenience for them and didn't add more than half a minute to the wait behind me. I'm sure they won't learn anything from this either. Stories number 4. So one of my former best friends decided to go crazy and stir crap up in my life. First of all, hello all. Hello Mark, if you do read this. I very rarely have posted or commented anything. I'm a longtime lurker and have been following the channel for a few years now. They've made my daily routines more pleasant overall, even on days when I'm in a rush or am feeling down, etc. So this is my first time posting something more serious on Reddit. Edit, add, actually. Second, I forgot I initially posted about worrying about my friend a year ago when stuff was starting and she was in the midst of having her first breakdown. But I didn't have all of the info I do now, and that post never got responses. But it's there on my profile if you're curious. It's been weighing on me, and I'm not really seeking judgment or anything, maybe reassurances and such, just wanting to get it off of my chest and out of my head. I've talked with a few people about it in my life, but it's hard for me, and I've always been the kind of person that has to talk themselves out until they feel better. You know? I'm sorry this was long. I tried editing it down, and if there's more that isn't necessary to paint the whole picture of our relationship, I'll trim it out. In any case, feel free to skip this prelude. I just want to say thank you for being you and taking the time to let me vent, and to everyone else reading, thank you for listening to my drivel. Much love to you all. Now on to the actual situation at hand. I, 31F, have now had 3 very close friends, the sort that you trust your heart and soul and deepest secrets and insecurities with, ride or dies, and have known them since I was in high school. The one this post is about, we'll just call her Betty, 32F. The other 2 aren't really relevant to what's going on, but just so you know, I don't have a whole lot of close connections. So this all hurts more for it. Long background. Betty and I met in high school. I was a junior and she was a senior, and we started dating before too long before she came out as a woman. We dated for 2 years together before she revealed this to me, and I, supportive, told her that while I will always have deep love for her, I'm still a straight woman and can't change that about myself any more than she can change who she is. But I would always be there to support her and cheer her on, and I will always love her as a close, dear friend. It was a hard, kind of ugly breakup because she was scared of losing me due to her own home life being hell, neglectful mom, vile stepdad, her mom having equally vile exes while she was growing up, etc. So she lashed out at me and, well, during our breakup conversation, she did something awful to me. However, I did forgive her for it after some distance and a couple of years of low contact, because while it didn't make what she did okay, I understood it wasn't an act to humiliate me or have power over me, nor was she even in her right state of mind. It was an act of desperation to prove she could be man enough for me, so I wouldn't leave her, more or less. It's been years, but those were close enough to her actual words. After years of abuse, she suffered. So, she also suffered a warped sense of reality and what was okay and not okay. We were 19 when we broke up, and neither of us were in a healthy emotional or mental state. I grew up in a conservative Catholic home and very sheltered, so I have my own mental issues and had to unlearn a lot of things. My own relationship now with my parents is good overall, but with boundaries due to some things that occurred that could be their own post. She broke down crying to me and begging my forgiveness. It hadn't clicked with her what she had done at the time. Didn't help that info about that stuff wasn't that great back then. And now that she had time to realize, she felt horrible. To me, it's a nuanced issue that, again, doesn't at all make what she did okay, but I understood her and could forgive her. We got back into a good spot together and our friendship resumed its former strength, stronger even at times. She began her transitions. I supported her emotionally, and when she got into legal trouble against her grandfather, who she had previously been close with but he turned on her as soon as she came out, I supported her through it all. Only mentioning this bit because it's not her first time in our state's jail system, so this is all the worse for her now. As for me and my life, I moved on and met a man, we'll call him Tom, fell in love, and married. We had 4 kids, 2 of which are on the spectrum. And between that, her guidance, she's also on the spectrum, and my own research, I discovered I also am ADHD, ADHD, and her support through all of it helped ground me when I needed it. But life goes on. Tom develops a drug problem early in our marriage. And while it was rough, I chose to stay with him. Don't worry, I did leave to stay with my parents to keep the kiddos safe from him and his lifestyle. They don't remember any of his shenanigans. I'd let the kids visit him when we could, and it was safe to do so. She helped us both out by giving him a place to crash for a bit while he was couch surfing, which did result in her getting physically attacked by a scumbag that was after Tom. Bless her for dealing with that shit. She still put up with us even after that, giving us emotional support and even financial support at times. When he got arrested for his drug usage and went to jail, he deserved it, he knows it, went through the court stuff, all of that. She was still a loyal friend and support to us both. Eventually my husband got out, and as of today, is 7 years sober, a hardworking man, and he helps out with the VA court, like drug court, but for veterans. As a mentor and director, he's completely turned his life around. And yes, we are aware he is the exception and not the norm when it comes to sobriety success stories. But we're grateful for it. She joins the job crop, moves to Oregon around 2017-2018. She goes through more transition treatments, does cool things, gets in a relationship. Then she eventually moves with her BF to Washington and starts work there, etc. All is fine for her, great even, until it isn't. This is all to illustrate that she wasn't a mooch or anything. She could function as an adult and support herself. She knows how to, which is why we didn't question wanting to help her when shit hit the fan for her, because we didn't think she'd take advantage of us. They broke up last year after a few years together. She goes into a downward spiral between that and mistreatment from her employer due to her disabilities and her transgenderism. Eventually has a horrible manic episode that resulted in her trashing her apartment and not taking care of herself, ending up in the hospital for hypothermia and a possible stroke, etc. A lot. Tom and I took her in, of course. She helped us when Tom was down, so now it was time to return the favor. Since November-December of last year, she was staying with us. We didn't make her pay rent or help with utilities, despite her getting disability, so she could contribute and still have plenty left over. We only asked if she could help us here and there when bills got away from us. Power bill, mainly, due to her always being home not working, so the power was being used more. Or help with groceries, since she also ate with us, and groceries have gotten ridiculous. Thank God for WIC. All in all, she helped about a few hundred a month, mainly for groceries, and the rest she either spent as she felt like or saved for when she could leave the state again. She also helped me with the kids. While she has no maternal instincts herself, she was competent and could keep them safe, so I could run errands, run my older two to their speech and occupational therapy sessions, etc. Also keep in mind, I never forced her to mind my kiddos. I always asked and made sure she was well enough to do it, and she usually was. In her words, I just gotta keep them alive, and I'm good at that. And that's really all I needed to run a trip to the grocery store or something. If she wasn't up to it, I took them with me or waited for Tom to get home from work. Whatever worked out. We also have an actual co-tenant roommate, because rent is high here, and she loves the kids, so she often helps too when she's not working. So my friend never had to be forced. Life has considerably calmed down since those hellish early days for all of us. Tom and I have strived to be better and stronger people. I sought codependency counseling because yes, I know, I enabled and forgave way too much for a lot of BS, and I'm at a place now where I'm less forgiving but still willing to give reasonable chances, but I'm still working on it. And overall, our life is rather boring, the typical lower middle class living paycheck to paycheck most of the time, but we're doing okay and life is okay sort of deal. She was always eccentric and wild and a bit of burn the government down and let's start over sort of gal. But she and I understood each other due to being neurodivergent and our long shared history. I never thought she could cause harm to us. Although I knew she hated our home state with a passion, due to it being pretty red and all of the bad memories, she never sought work here or even to resume her counseling or regular medical check-ins because she wanted nothing to do with our state beyond having to stay with us, which I understood. I think all of this contributes to her breakdown because she wasn't getting proper treatments like she should have. On to the actual situation. If you read all of that waffling, thank you. I know it was long, but I felt it was relevant to paint the full picture. We have hurt each other, we have helped each other, and overall, we had a strong and rather unique bond, I felt, so I want to be sure that I illustrated that. Plus, maybe there's perspectives I need to consider because I'm too close to the situation. Part of my reaction to all of this is me learning to use my backbone and put my foot down, because again, I am a recovering doormat due to my upbringing and people-pleasing tendencies, but I wonder if I went too far, especially in comparison to what she and I have dealt with from each other in the past, so I guess insight on that would be helpful. So anyway, this all happened so fast, it felt like whiplash. Basically, all was normal and calm until a few weeks ago when she started acting different. I figured it was just her being overwhelmed. She was in the process of suing her former employer with my husband's help. She made him her POA due to mistreatment and unlawful firing. They were close to finally settling on that, so she was probably anxious to get out and forget this whole mess, get away from our state, etc. Plus, while she cared about my kids because they're mine, she's not a fan of kids in general, so I'm sure she was just burnt out nearing the finish line and was needing to isolate more, which I was fine with. However, she was acting erratic. That day I got home from work, and she was blasting all of the devices that could make sound, top volume. All of the TVs, the Amazon Echo Show, her record player, and when I got home, she was downstairs in my youngest kiddo's room turning on their TV to do the same. All of the water faucets were running, the kitchen sink, all of the bathroom sinks, both showers, and our basement shower head is detachable and was hanging down and spraying water out. It spilled out and soaked a small portion of our basement floor, which we cleaned up together. I thought that might have been an accident while she was turning it on. I was confused as hell as to what she was doing, but figured maybe she was trying to gain some sort of sensory input. I don't even know, I just didn't question it much, and let her be. As long as she wasn't breaking anything, I figured she could do whatever her autism guided her to do. And again, I'm also ADHD, so I get that sometimes on the surface things don't make sense, but inside they do. Eventually all is shut off and the house is chill for the rest of the day. I apologized to our roommate about the noise, and she's so sweet, she was understanding too, as she's also very used to Betty. Then night falls and we're all in bed when she acts up again. This time stomping on the floor, really loudly, not out of anger but like she just wanted to be as loud as possible. In the middle of the night. Mind you, our bedroom is in the basement and hers was directly above ours, so we were like, WTF? And tried to tune it out until it was so loud it kept scaring us awake. Tom went up, first time to ask her irritably, but overall, nicely to please keep it down because we're trying to sleep. And then again later when she wouldn't stop to yell at her about it. She finally did, and we went to sleep. Next day, she started up with the stomping again, once Tom had left for work, and I was getting ready. It scared me each time. She was turning on music loud again, but I figured it'd just be the same as the day before, and I rushed to get out of there for work because it was making me anxious. On my way out, there's a fuse box next to our back door. I go out the back door towards the driveway. And I saw she had opened it and pulled off the panel so the wires and switches were all exposed. Now this set off my alarm bells, and I knew if Tom saw that he'd be pissed, but I wanted to give her a chance to maybe put it back on later before he got home. And as I was pulling away, she was at his grill doing something, but I had a bad feeling in my gut. On my way to work, I called Tom and asked him to go home and check up on Betty once he had a free moment. No rush, but I was worried about her, and she was acting bizarre again. I didn't mention the fuse box. I was praying she'd put it back and things would be fine, but that was obviously a foolish hope. He was frustrated but agreed, and after an hour or so he went home to check on her, and thank goodness he did. She just went bonkers, not yelling or making a scene bonkers, but just crazy. She had smashed her cell phone. She had broken her bedroom window and there was glass everywhere. She had spray painted the fuse box with gold paint, and she sprayed the glass cover over the meter that the power company reads to issue us our power bill. She smashed up part of our back deck fencing. She had smashed the grates in my husband's grill. She had the grill burning hot until she could break them down, and she had burned up all of his grilling tools in it. We didn't discover this until the next day. But our basement has a back door that leads outside with a set of steps that go up to our side yard. She used the hose and turned on the water to flood down those steps, and it ended up flooding part of our basement carpet as a result, which is now why I think the shower head thing was on purpose too. She let out all of our animals, except our birds, thank God. We had 3 dogs and 3 cats, one of which was a new little kitten stray that we had taken in the week prior, and they were out roaming the neighborhood. The newest dog we got was a puppy, and Tom found her a few streets over covered in goat heads. She had to be shaved down because we couldn't pull them from her fur without hurting her. She went from looking like a fluffy shiatsu to a naked chihuahua. The poor thing. All of our other dogs and our 2 older cats are home safe. Thankfully, nothing bad happened to them. The kitten is still missing weeks later, and we're hoping she either found a new home or, I just hope she's safe. The kids cry about her still. Tom didn't see the fuse box and grill at first. He went inside into her room. She was standing naked, arms out, like some sort of statue pose or something. He doesn't know, and he saw the window. He was mad, but at first was trying to be kind and understanding. He told her they were going to go to the store to get the stuff to fix it. He loved her, and while he didn't know what was going on, all was going to be okay. They hugged, she got dressed, and they started to leave. Then he saw the other stuff and lost it. Yelled at her. Yelled how she could have put our family in danger because of the spray paint on the fuse box being a fire hazard, and it's an old house, over 100 years old, and how we could get in huge trouble with our landlord over it. A broken window is one thing, but spray paint on a fuse box? We tried so hard to scrub it off and couldn't. Cleaning spray, Goo Gone, vinegar and water, We tried anything we could think of. His grill, we use it all of the time, and she destroyed it. And we can't exactly go out and buy another one right now. So they went to Lowe's and got the stuff they needed to patch up the window and attempt to clean that fuse box. And once they were home, Tom had to use the restroom. And while he was, Betty took his truck and drove off with it. He heard the engine flare up and the tires squeal from inside. She blazed it on out of there. Of course, Tom called the police. She was arrested pretty shortly after that. She was speeding down and driving recklessly down one of the busy roads, and 4 different drivers called her in for reckless driving. She was taken to jail for the reckless driving, and Tom agreed to press charges for grand theft auto. We are just flabbergasted by everything. This was so out of left field for her. And in hindsight, it's like a repeat of what she did last year, but she had never done something like this before, to our knowledge, and we thought it had been a build-up from the mistreatment at work and her breakup. But we don't know what the trigger was here this time. We are hurt and feel betrayed because how could she do this to our family, after all we've been doing for her? Taking her in, not making her pay anything, Tom helping her with her legal stuff. We gave her Tom's old truck, not the one she stole, so she could get out of the house. Well, we did give it to her. We hadn't signed the title over yet, and now Tom won't because of what happened. We're going to find a way to sell it. We bought her food and treats and weed and took her on fun trips with us. She was a part of our family. The kids called her Auntie Betty, and they still ask about her. We just told them Auntie Betty decided she wasn't happy here in our state and decided to leave. And most of all, I just feel hurt like, if nothing else, how could she do this to me, after all we'd been through and have done for each other, our years of history? I feel guilty, like I betrayed her when it's an obvious mental health crisis, her untreated, not properly treated autism and ADHD, and she also has borderline personality disorder that I'm certain she wasn't treating at all. I let her be arrested in the state she hates most, which now means she has to be here even longer than she wanted. And I won't be helping her out of it, and Tom and I are suing her. But I feel betrayed too. She knew we weren't financially great, not drowning but not great, and she throws these massive financial curveballs at us. She puts our family at risk, our pets at risk. She could have crashed Tom's truck. She hates this state, and I get that. But she chose not to seek proper mental treatments when she could have, and let herself deteriorate to the point of being destructive. She chose to do things that got her arrested. It's going to cost over $3,000 to fix the fuse box. At least it's cosmetic, thank God. We had an electrician come out to look at it, and he said we should be okay, as far as usability and fire hazards go. And it's almost $300 to fix the window, which Tom has to do himself, because the company we contacted gave us a quote on what it would take out of our pockets to fix it. But they can't because apparently it's lead paint around the window. Great to know. Gonna have to find a way to get rid of that for the kiddos' sake. And of course, we'll have to replace his grill entirely, which is, of course, a lower priority. Betty also melted down the brake calipers on his truck or something like that from her little joyride. The police said the truck was smoking when they pulled her over, and after taking it to the shop to get checked, that's what the mechanics told Tom. So we gotta fix those too. Just how could she do this to us? So, Reddit, did I do the right thing and her off for this? Should I be more compassionate? Considering all we've been through, am I a hypocrite, basically? Or do I need to keep my foot down and say, enough, and how do I get over this pain in my heart from losing one of my closest friends? There's actually more that has happened since all of this as far as her being in jail goes, but I'll give you all room to digest this much right now. Thanks again if you read all of this, and take care. So it's been a few weeks, not a whole lot has happened, but I figured I'd give a small update on how things are going. My family and I are all doing okay for the most part. The kiddos still ask where Auntie Betty is and why she left, and that they miss her. Other than that, they've adjusted just fine, and the house has been rather peaceful for the most part. We've been doing a lot of Halloween-themed activities together, with the help of my best friend, so that's been a lot of fun. We patched up our window for now, and so far our fuse box is still cosmetically damaged, but I don't know if they've contacted my husband to set a repair date or not. I know things have been crazy busy in our lives this past month due to work, Tom being in a play, theater is his hobby, passion, and he's also a haunted house actor for the season, a yearly tradition. He is good friends with the owners, it's a paid gig. Now on to the more important details, I suppose. This is all secondhand from her mother, who told Tom, who told me. and I also read the messages between them. So her mom is actually in town. We just haven't been able to meet up with her in person yet between work and the kiddos' schedules, yada yada, but she's been understanding and cool about it, and we'll set a date here soon so she can collect Betty's things. Anyway, Betty had a court hearing, which her mom attended. Tom had meant to go to it, but it slipped his mind, as again, things have been really busy for him. So Betty apparently still isn't in a good headspace and doesn't seem to be understanding a whole lot right now. She told the judge she wanted to go home and talk to her dad, Tom. They told her her mom was in the courtroom, and her mom agreed to pass along the message. Tom is going to try and reach out to here soon, I think, once he has some downtime to spare, which I get and approve of. Now that it's been a few weeks, we've definitely settled down in our feelings and are just accepting things as they come. Her mom said she looked rough and was definitely emotional, but calm at least. Also, she still doesn't have a public defender because of some conflict, which Tom, her mom, nor the prosecuting attorney really understand. The prosecuting attorney suggested that her mom keeps calling the public defender's office until they get her assigned someone. They found that she was incompetent to stand trial, and they are going to transport her to a state hospital in another town a few hours away for further evaluation and treatment. To which Betty told the judge she would be okay with that. I think it'll be good for her to get the proper help she really needs. There are days when I really miss her, but I'm okay with whatever outcome we get. I just want her to be well. As of right now, Betty still hasn't reached out to her mom, despite her mom's brother putting money on her account, although her mom isn't sure if she's understanding it right now. That's all the update I have for now. I'll update more when I know more. I'll probably just add small updates on this post if necessary, and save the outcome of everything for its own post. But for now, thanks for reading. Last post didn't get a lot of reaction, which I didn't really expect it to. Honestly, it was quite wordy and ain't nobody got time for that. But it was still nice to just type it out and get it off my chest. Stories number 5. My 13-year-old son got panted at school. What do? Just got a phone call from the principal that my 13-year-old son got panted at school. It was during lunch, while waiting in line, shorts and underwear down to his thighs, though I guess his sweatshirt helped from him being fully exposed. They have the incident on video. They have told me a punishment has not been decided yet, but a suspension will be involved. Right now I am hurt for my son and just pissed off. He is an awesome kid, a bit of an introvert, and will not be in the mood to discuss it much. What do I do here? Too angry to think rationally right now. Thank you. Eat it. Update. The video was from school security cameras, not recorded on a phone. Agree that would be cause for expulsion. I just picked him up and talked with him. He seemed okay walking out of school, laughing with his friend, so that was good. I let him lead the way. He talked about what happened, and I let him know that his mom and I have his back, and will do whatever to protect him. He is going to take tomorrow off. He was a bit upset, but still plans to go to his school dance tonight. Glad to see he isn't totally devastated over it, though obviously I'll be watching the signs. They told her mom was in the courtroom, and her mom agreed to pass along the message. Tom is going to try and reach out to here soon, I think, once he has some downtime to spare, which I get and approve of. Now that it's been a few weeks, we've definitely settled down in our feelings and are just accepting things as they come. Her mom said she looked rough and was definitely emotional, but calm at least. Also, she still doesn't have a public defender because of some conflict, which Tom, her mom, nor the prosecuting attorney really understand. The prosecuting attorney suggested that her mom keeps calling the public defender's office until they get her assigned someone. They found that she was incompetent to stand trial, and they are going to transport her to a state hospital in another town a few hours away for further evaluation and treatment. To which Betty told the judge she would be okay with that. I think it'll be good for her to get the proper help she really needs. There are days when I really miss her, but I'm okay with whatever outcome we get. I just want her to be well. As of right now, Betty still hasn't reached out to her mom, despite her mom's brother putting money on her account, although her mom isn't sure if she's understanding it right now. That's all the update I have for now. I'll update more when I know more. I'll probably just add small updates on this post if necessary, and save the outcome of everything for its own post. But for now, thanks for reading. Last post didn't get a lot of reaction, which I didn't really expect it to. Honestly, it was quite wordy and ain't nobody got time for that. But it was still nice to just type it out and get it off my chest. Stories number 5. My 13-year-old son got panted at school. What do? Just got a phone call from the principal that my 13-year-old son got panted at school. It was during lunch, while waiting in line, shorts and underwear down to his thighs, though I guess his sweatshirt helped from him being fully exposed. They have the incident on video. They have told me a punishment has not been decided yet, but a suspension will be involved. Right now I am hurt for my son and just pissed off. He is an awesome kid, a bit of an introvert, and will not be in the mood to discuss it much. What do I do here? Too angry to think rationally right now. Thank you. AITA update. The video was from school security cameras, not recorded on a phone. Agree that would be cause for expulsion. I just picked him up and talked with him. He seemed okay walking out of school laughing with his friend, so that was good. I let him lead the way. He talked about what happened, and I let him know that his mom and I have his back and will do whatever to protect him. He is going to take tomorrow off. He was a bit upset, but still plans to go to his school dance tonight. Glad to see he isn't totally devastated over it, though obviously I'll be watching the signs. Feel pretty good about what I'm doing parent-wise, though the advice helps. Just want to make sure I'm not missing doing anything with the school or even authorities. Still considering my options here. Thanks for weighing in so far. Second update. From what I have gathered, this is more of an isolated incident than targeted bullying. I know the boy that did it is in his group of acquaintances at school. Doesn't forgive any action, but it does color the situation. If I thought this was bullying, I'd definitely go to the cops, look into martial arts, combat sports, push for expulsion. Involving the police escalates the situation. They might need to interview kids on the incident. It will make this into a huge deal at the school and put my son at the center. I told my son I would gladly involve police if he deemed it necessary. He did not want the extra attention though. He is happy with him being suspended. I'm meeting with the principal tomorrow to ensure both of my kids at this school are safe and this boy is dealt with appropriately. Heard another kid got panted today as well, so it's an idiotic middle school trend right now apparently. If I'm unhappy with the response, I will escalate to superintendent, also title X coordinator. Based on some feedback here, I changed my mind and he will be attending school tomorrow. Hopefully this is my last update here. Thank you all for the advice. It was truly helpful. Stories number 6. I had a baby as a result of an affair, and now his wife is reaching out to me. I, F, 26, had an affair with a married man, M, 42, a few years ago. I had no clue he was married when we first met and hooked up. I obviously looked him up on social media, and while he did have photos of his kids on there was absolutely no mention or photos of a wife at all. I found out that he was married about a month after we first got together. But he told me it was just a marriage on paper, and that they basically lived separate lives and agreed to remain married for practical purposes until the kids were older. They owned a business, which she really ran, and he was just financially involved in. I knew at the time that I probably shouldn't believe him, but I convinced myself it was true. I was in my early 20s and so attracted to him, and I guess almost infatuated with him. He made me feel so good. I know now that I should have ended it immediately, but I didn't realize what I was getting myself into. I was addicted to all of the attention he gave me, the great making love, the places he'd take me. I felt special. I was so naive. I got pregnant about a year into seeing him. I had always been so careful with preventing pregnancy, but during my relationship with him, I took stupid risks. I was so high in lust with this guy, it's embarrassing. The things he'd ask me to do, I'd say yes to almost anything, even when I knew it was a bad idea. I was in love with him, or I thought I was. I hadn't intentionally wanted to get pregnant. I would of course dream about being his wife and having a family, but I knew that wouldn't be a possibility while he had this arrangement with his actual wife. I didn't get pregnant on purpose, with any intention of him leaving her for me, even if I wished that we could be a real, normal couple. I was surprised by how excited I was to be pregnant with his baby. I wanted that baby once I found out I was pregnant. The thought of carrying this baby of the man I loved was so special to me, but I knew he probably wouldn't feel the same. I told him I was pregnant, and he told me I couldn't keep the baby. I expected his reaction, but I was devastated, and it hurt me to my core that he didn't feel the same way I did. He offered to pay, to make a whole weekend of it somewhere exciting, TF, and to buy me something special if I'd just please get rid of the baby. He explained that he didn't want any more kids, and that he couldn't openly be a father to another kid when he and his wife were still pretending to be happily married to the outside world. I agreed to do what he wanted, and we made plans for him to pick me up and find somewhere out of town to go get it done. I was all packed the night he was going to pick me up. but I started to feel really scared and really unsafe about the whole thing. I took my bag and checked myself into a hotel to hide because I couldn't go with him. I texted him to say I promised to never contact him again and to never name him as the father or go after child support if he'd promised to leave me alone. At first, he tried to sweet-talk me into doing what he wanted. When I didn't cave in, he said some very nasty things to me and that I essentially better never contact him again or show up at his door. I have a 2-year-old now. At times, it's been difficult, but overall, we are thriving as best we can. I have kept my word about not naming his as the father or requesting child support. His wife contacted me on social media. Well, she's his ex-wife now. She wants to talk to me. She found out about me and told me that she divorced him 6 months ago. She wants her children to know their sibling and for my child to know his siblings. That's weird to me. I haven't responded back to her yet. I am unsure about how to approach this. How do I respond to this? I wonder if I'm being selfish by not exploring an option for my child to know his siblings. If she's being genuine about that. If I was married and my husband fathered a child outside of our marriage, I don't think I'd feel the same that she does. Update 1. February 18th, 2024, 3 weeks later. I made a post 3 weeks ago and things have only gotten stranger. I had an affair with a married man a few years ago. I regret it and I will never do anything like that ever again. I knew it was wrong from the very beginning, but he captivated me. I was naive. I allowed myself to believe when he told me they were pretty much just married on paper for the sake of their kids. I got pregnant, and while he tried to talk me into getting an abortion, I ultimately decided to keep the baby. I have a 2-year-old little boy now. I promised this man that I wouldn't expose our affair, and I wouldn't formally identify him as the father or request child support. I did that because he was becoming very nasty about the whole thing, and I felt like, due to the mess that I had created and the way I felt by the end of it, a clean break with no involvement with him would be the best thing for everyone. I moved back to where my family is, hundreds of miles from where he and his family live. About a month ago, his ex-wife reached out to me via social media, claiming they had been divorced for 6 months and that she wanted our children to be able to know each other. Now, their kids are teenagers, so I didn't really think they'd want anything to do with the toddler and the woman their father was having an affair with. It seemed odd to me. After posting here, I sort of decided that I wouldn't respond to her. I'd just ignore it. She just sent me the one message, so it wasn't as if she was badgering me about talking to me or meeting me. On Friday night, I decided to message her. I don't really know why. I think it was really just for my sake so I could have the chance to apologize to her. I told her that I would be more comfortable speaking with her face to face since I couldn't trust that it was really her. She said she understood. I was too nervous to meet her in person, but we did a video chat. I didn't know what to expect, if this was all a ploy just to unleash her fury on me, or what. I mean, I deserve that. She wouldn't be wrong to feel that way. It was really her. She told me she discovered our affair when she found communications between the two of us, after our relationship had ended. She told me I'm one of many women he had affairs with over the years, and she knew about somebody even before he met me. But she didn't divorce him at the time. Finding out about my child was the final straw for her. I told her I was sorry for my relationship with her husband, and admitted that I knew he was married. She graciously told me she forgives me and that while she harbored a lot of anger towards me initially, she ultimately blames her husband. I'm not blameless, but she chooses to not hate me, essentially. She said she couldn't have said this 6 months ago or a year ago when she first found out about me, but she has moved past that. She still has anger toward him, in addition to many other emotions surrounding him. She started pouring out her heart to me about their 20-plus year marriage and life together. And it was very awkward because, what do I even say? Her kids know about me and my son. She says they're very mad at their father. Somehow I don't think they're mad about the fact that he's not involved with my son's life. And why would they be mad about that? I would hate me if I were them. I told her with my son being so little right now, I don't really feel comfortable with him meeting her kids or being involved with their family. I feel unsure about it, and it's just not something I feel needs to happen right now. Then she told me her ex-husband was in a bad accident 2 months ago. He's fine now, still not allowed to return to all his normal activities just yet, but will be fine. He is probably the most physically active person I've ever met, barely ever seems to sit down, so he must be terribly annoying to be around if he's not allowed to go all the time. She told me he wants to meet my son. Apparently she moved back in with him temporarily when he first came home from the hospital, She said the accident really shook him up and he has been expressing a lot of regret about my son, not being involved, not providing for him. So now it's like, was everything she said just a lie and he somehow got her to reach out to me on his behalf? And she actually did it? It felt almost like a relief talking to her initially, but then it's like, was any of that true, or you were just trying to be his messenger? I don't even know if that part is true now. Why wouldn't he just contact me himself? I'm just feeling so uneasy about the whole thing now. Update 2, April 30th, 2024, 2 months later. I posted about this a few months ago. To summarize very quickly, when I was fresh out of college, I had an affair with a married man and father. I became pregnant. He wanted me to get an abortion. He had arranged to take me away in a vacation to get an abortion. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, but I agreed to go along with what we wanted. At the last minute, when he was on his way to come pick me up, I told him I couldn't go through with the abortion. I just really didn't feel comfortable about his plan and how he was orchestrating everything. It scared me. I realized at that time how deep I had gone with this mistake, how screwed up the whole relationship was. He was really mad. He threatened me, said a lot of nasty things to me. I told him if he just left me alone and let me have my baby, then I'd leave him alone and wouldn't name him as the father or seek child support. I moved back home. I was living in a different state when I met him. I kept my word, and I did. It names him as the father or seek to establish paternity. I have never sought child support. My child is 2 now. A few months ago, his wife contacted me via social media. At first, she made it seem like she wanted my child to have the opportunity to know his siblings. It was sort of weird since the siblings are teenagers. She said she had divorced him 6 months prior. I agreed to talk to her virtually, not in person. I felt that I owed it to her to apologize for what I had done. I do feel bad about it. But at the end of the conversation, I told her that I didn't feel it was the appropriate time to connect my son with her kids. He's a toddler and they're teens. Plus, I had promised her husband to stay out of his life. That's when she told me that he was recently in a bad accident and she had been helping to take care of him. Supposedly, he was going to be fine and was fairly recovered at that point. But she said he had expressed interest to meet our child. So she was basically his messenger. I have not been in contact with her since then. I deleted my social media, I don't know why, but the whole thing just really made me uncomfortable. Since I last posted here, then I received a handwritten letter from him. In it, he expressed how he wanted to get to know our son. He wants to be a father to our son. He wants to provide financially for him. He'd like us to come visit him. He asked me to sign a paternity affidavit. I refused to do so. I know he is my son's father, but I'm not going to make this that easy for him. After the things he said to me and threatened me with, he at least has to work for this. At that point, my parents felt that we needed to meet with a lawyer. All communication from me has gone through a lawyer. I have never responded to him personally directly. Now, I have a court order for paternity. I have to present my son to have a specimen taken tomorrow. I already know what it's going to say. It's not that I don't want my son to have a dad in his life. It's just the whole situation is a mess, and he lives a few states away from me. I don't know what to do. I can't really do anything. He's doing things legally. Next, I'm sure he'll petition for some form of custody or visitation. He's not married anymore, supposedly, but he's a lot more established than I am. He has considerably more financial resources. I also know he has all sorts of connections where he lives. Luckily, they don't hold as much weight here in my state, but it's still so scary to me. I'm a bad mom. I brought my son into this world knowing it was a messy situation. I just got so comfortable with it, just being the two of us, and now I don't want to give that up. Update number 3, June 15th, 2024, 2 months later. I won't rehash the whole thing here. My previous posts are on my profile. I got pregnant from an affair with a married guy. He wanted me to have an abortion. I decided I didn't want one. He turned mean. I promised to not name him as the father, legally, or to pursue any sort of child support. I moved away from where he and his family were located. I'm about 12 hours away from him now, back where my family is from. I haven't reached out to him in the now over 3 years since. His ex-wife reached out to me out of the blue via social media, initially claiming she wanted to connect with me so that our kids could know each other. When I politely declined for the time being, as her kids are teenagers and my son is a toddler and we live states apart, she revealed she was really reaching out in behalf of her ex-husband, who had supposedly had a change of heart about being involved in our child's life after nearly dying in an accident. I did not engage with her any further after that. It all made me feel very uncomfortable. Later, I received a letter from him in the mail. He asked to be involved with our son, to provide for him, etc. It still felt weird. I mean, he turned really mean and didn't want anything to do with me or our baby, and hadn't made any attempt to contact me in years. And I was not hiding. His wife was obviously able to find me on social media, and you can find my address online. I felt like if he was serious, he'd take the steps to establish paternity legally. And that's what he did. Around 1.5 months ago, we were ordered to submit DNA samples for a paternity test. It took around 5 weeks to find out what I already knew it'd say. But now things are stalled for another several weeks for the next step in the court process. I haven't talked to him at all during this whole thing. I didn't respond directly to his letter. I do have a lawyer, and everything is basically going through him now. Then without any warning, he just showed up at my home last weekend. Just knocked on the door like it was nothing. Basically, this is his son, and he doesn't want to wait another 6 weeks for the court to inevitably order us into some sort of custody mediation anyway. His words. Why can't I just talk to him? I told him he made me uncomfortable, and him just showing up at my house really made me uncomfortable. Honestly, I don't know what made me so uncomfortable. The fact that he showed up unannounced like that, or the fact that I instantly felt the same attraction to him that I had when I was with him, and I didn't want to feel that at all. In some weird way, part of me felt happy to see him, and then another part of me was disgusted that I was happy. He said he doesn't understand why we can't just talk about this. He's not trying to take my son away from me. He just wants to be involved in his life and to help provide for him like he should have been all along. He's sorry he wasn't there when he was born. He's sorry he reacted the way that he did when I didn't go along with his plans to take me on an abortion vacation. Why can't I believe that he just wants to be a dad to his kid? I guess I agree with him. Why can't I just accept that he has had a change of heart? I can't trust myself. I can't trust my own judgment. I feel like if I easily let him into my son's life, I'm going to end up regretting it and be made a fool of somehow. I've already made so many mistakes when it comes to him. He says it's stupid of me to not try to work it out amongst ourselves first. I'm giving so much control to the court. I don't know whether to believe that or to think it's just his way of convincing me to do what he wants. I know he will get some sort of visitation and eventual custody. Maybe it would be better if we tried to come to an agreement, but he had the ability to sway me so easily. I'm so stupid when it comes to him. Nobody else has ever made me feel so foolish in my life. I want my son to have a dad. I admit it's probably selfish of me to want to keep him away. I just keep imagining having to spend weeks or months apart from my child while he's living with his dad 12 hours away, and I can't stand the thought of it. I'm just feeling sad, stupid, and defeated. Update 4, July 30th, 2024, 1.5 months later. Since everyone got mad at me for posting a recap of my situation in my previous posts, I won't even go there. If you're interested in the backstory, you can read my previous posts. All I will say is that I have a 3-year-old son who was conceived with an affair I had with a married man. After initially making me promise to not contact him, to not name him as the father, and to not request child support, my child's father has been pursuing involvement in our son's life over the last several months. He lives states away, and most recently he showed up at my house to try to convince me to work things out directly with him. Since the last time I posted, we've recently had a mediation session, and he's met our son twice. At this time, he will have supervised visitation, with me present. Because he lives states away, he is required to come here to see our son. It will not be on a weekly basis due to the travel. He will see him during 2 weeks of the month, 2 times each week, for a total of 4 visits a month, plus 2 video calls a month. This will last for 6 months. The next step will be for him to continue that schedule, but to have unsupervised visitation, during which he cannot remove him from the area, for another 6 months. After a year, we agree to have another mediation session to determine next steps, with the goal, his goal, of being able to have my son at his home for short overnights. I'm not even ready to discuss that. He's already suggesting I can come for the first few times. I don't like the sound of it at all. We also have the option to request another mediation before 1 year, and something tells me he's going to pull that. I also have an order for child support. While he is in agreement with paying child support, it will have to work through the court system before becoming official and for me to start getting the regular payment. He wrote me a large check in the meantime. I was hesitant to accept it. Not that I don't think my son deserves it, but now I'm just always worried I'll say or do the wrong thing legally, completely unknowingly, and shoot myself in the foot. Like, Am I obligated myself and my son to anything by accepting this check? Can he somehow spin this against me? Of course, he was not in favor of the 6-month plan. And while he does understand that my son should not just go off with a stranger upon first meeting him, he wishes we could speed it along a little more. But 6 months was what we were able to agree on. He wanted to fly us both to where he lived so he could spend a week or two getting to know our son. But I don't feel that's appropriate at this time. Perhaps in a few months, or around the holidays, depending on how things are going. It would be too much too soon. The initial 2 meetings went pretty much just as I thought they would. My son is extremely shy. He wanted to hide behind me most of the time. Then when he would venture out from behind me, as soon as his dad would say anything to him, he would scurry back behind me and just stare at his dad blankly without saying anything. He came out of his shell a little bit, however he has still not said a single word to his dad. He just pretends like his dad isn't there and only talks to me. I will say that his dad is being patient and understanding as far as that goes. If he's frustrated, he's not showing it. He did suggest that maybe our son needs to get out more, go to daycare more of even preschool, instead of spending so much time with me and my parents. He's very delighted with how much our son looks like him and how much he favors him over me. The one thing that did bother me is that I already told him I wanted to be very careful and mindful of how we informed our son, this little barely 3-year-old boy, that this man/complete stranger is his dad. He said, "Sure, yeah." Then at the first meeting he introduced himself as dad. Since then, I've been trying to help my son understand. Like, you know how your grandpa is my daddy, this guy is your daddy. It's so surreal to me that any of this is happening. I feel like I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'm waiting for something to blow up in my face. Now, it's just working on accepting our new reality. All of this change is hard and confusing for my son, and it's hard for me. Unless he really fucks up, I'm looking at eventually shared times with my son, spending school breaks and holidays at his dad's house, hours and hours away in another state. It won't happen tomorrow, but it will happen in the most likely reality. I just hope he stays committed. If he can be a good dad to my child, then my child deserves that, no matter how sad sharing him makes me. If he breaks my son's heart, that'll be another story, and I won't accept that so readily. Update 5, August 20th, 2024, 1 month later. It's been 3 weeks since I last posted, and just over a month since our new visitation arrangement started. I've seen plenty of people here talking about how dumb I am. I don't really understand. What am I doing that's so dumb? I know it was dumb to have an ongoing year-long affair with a married man. It was stupid to put myself in a position where I could likely end up pregnant. That was in the past. What am I doing now that's so stupid? I have a lawyer. Yes, I agreed to talk to his wife one time. How was I to know she was just doing his bidding? Who would have thought that was the case? It's not even like I went to meet her in person somewhere. It was just a video call. I figured I at least owed that to her. Just one time, and a chance to tell her I was sorry for what I did. But ultimately, it felt off, and I protected my son by telling her I didn't think it was appropriate at this time for me and my 2-year-old to travel to another state to meet her teenage kids. It's not as if talking to her opened the door for him to reach out to me. I was careful with what info I shared with her. It's not as if I told her my address. He didn't need her to gather that info from me. Me talking to her isn't what prompted him to contact me directly and establish paternity. When he reached out to me directly about wanting to be involved with our son, I didn't reach out to him and decide to discuss things directly with him. I got a lawyer. When he showed up at my house, I didn't let him inside. I put my son in his room so he didn't eventually see our son or have access to him. I'm listening to my lawyer. I met with him in a mediation, and I am trying to make careful decisions for my son. There is nothing I can do to prevent him from having access to our son. The court will grant him access if I fight it. At least this way, I have a say in the arrangement. We are supposed to be using a parenting app. Since the last time I posted, he's reached out to me outside of the app. Now he keeps talking about us coming there to visit him. I have told him no, it's not appropriate. It's too much too soon. He's also already started talking about changing my son's last name to his, but maybe in a year or so. He tries to have personal conversations with me, not always about our son. I have shut those down and referred him back to the parenting app. He thinks using the app is stupid and is only for people who can't get along. He thinks it'd be better for our son if we got along and got to know each other again. He cares about me and what's going on in my life, or so he says. I also didn't cash the check he gave me. I returned it. If he wants to help financially beyond the child support he's ordered to pay, he can purchase items that our son needs out of his own free will. But he isn't to give me cash or checks. My lawyer actually told me that there was nothing wrong with accepting and cashing the check. It wouldn't affect anything related to child support. But knowing him, he could be using this check as something he can bring up later in court, and I just didn't feel comfortable about it. Sure, I would have loved to have kept it. There are quite a few useful things I could have used that money for. Of course, he was upset when I returned the check via certified mail. His plan was foiled. I know he's trying to butter me up for something. I don't know precisely what, but I'm not that stupid that I don't see through him now. Update 6. October 17th, 2024. 2 months later. I'm not allowed to post more updates and true off my chest, so I'm posting this to my profile. Not sure if anyone will even see it. I think somebody reposted my story somewhere else because I suddenly started receiving messages about an update nearly 2 months since I last posted. Every other day I get a text directly from him. How's our son? Followed by, you good though? Need anything? He's also started sending packages for our son. The last one came a few days ago, a big box of toys, books, and clothes. At first I didn't know what to think. Was this another tactic? But then I looked at the stuff he sent. It was thoughtful, age-appropriate books, clothes that actually fit, and toys my son genuinely liked. It was clear he put effort into it. Or the person he had go buy the stuff put effort into it. Hopefully not this poor ex-wife. For a moment, I could see him trying to be a father. A small part of me appreciated that. Still, I'm careful. I'm not letting my guard down. The good gestures are mixed with moments that make me feel uneasy. He mentioned, again, that maybe in a year or so, we should talk about changing my son's last name. I don't know why he keeps bringing it up. He acts like it's no big deal. Like it's just something we'll agree on eventually. On the other hand, I can't deny that having him show up consistently with child support and gifts has taken some pressure off me. He's contributing in ways that actually help. My son seems happy with the things he's sent. And while I don't want to rely on it, it's nice not to worry about buying new clothes every month. The biggest challenge right now is finding balance. How do I acknowledge the good things he's doing without letting my guard down too much? How do I protect my son from getting hurt if he loses interest or starts pushing too hard again? I'm still following my lawyer's advice, still documenting everything. But the dynamic is changing, and I'm trying to keep up. For now, I'm taking things day by day. Some moments feel peaceful, like maybe this arrangement could work. Other moments, I feel the weight of what's coming. He'll keep pushing for more time, for overnights, for a bigger role. He thinks it's unfair if I don't let him spend more time with our son during the holidays. He was practically throwing a temper tantrum about it. If I won't go to him, then he can rent an Airbnb and we can stay together. What? Why would we do that? He'll see him in December during his regularly scheduled visit. So then he called me a narcissistic, paranoid parent who just wants our son all to myself, and that I'm psychologically damaging him by not forcing him to go 0-60 playing happy family with a completely stranger overnight. The thing is, he has a way of saying it that makes me start to believe it, and then I'm worrying if I'm really being that way. I don't know why he can't just act like a normal, patient, understanding adult person. I'm cooperating and I know their level of contact and time will increase gradually. That's the key word, gradually. I'm not even trying to prevent that, but I just can't agree with this idea he has of just acting like he hasn't been completely uninvolved for almost 3 years. He's also trying to bribe me with money again. I'm not talking about the court-ordered child support and things like that. He asked me how much debt I had, and I wouldn't tell him. He kept pushing me to tell him because he would consider paying it off for me. Come on, let me help you. It's not help out if the kindness of his heart. He says there aren't strings attached, but I'm sure there are. He'll expect something in return, like for me to agree to change our son's name and allow some sort of custody arrangement I'm uncomfortable with. I do have a lot of debt that's a huge stressor on me, and yes, I've considered taking advantage of his offer, but not when I know my son is the price I have to pay. He told me he can find out how much debt I have if I don't tell him, and that he knows a lot more about me than I realize. I hope that's just him trying to intimidate me. It sounds like it's mostly just talk and something stupid he'd say. He is sounding more and more like his old self, though. So much for this accident, really changing him for the better. He's really had me fooled at moments. At the end of the day, it's not money or fancy things that would go a long way with me. It's things like a genuine apologize for threatening to kill me. You know, little things like that which go completely ignored and swept under the rug that would mean much more to me, but only if it was completely genuine. Stories number 7. My brother's girlfriend faked a seizure at my wedding. Have I been holding on to this for too long? I'm sorry for any mistakes, I don't post often. Anyway, about a year ago my husband and I got married. My brother 17N brought his girlfriend 17F, and I was okay with it. However, after the first dance, she faked a seizure because she didn't want to go home. My wedding was on a Sunday, and a couple of hours from where we live. Her mom said it was time to go, and she asked to stay in the hotel with my parents. My mom told her no because the hotel was booked out and their rooms were full. I have a lot of siblings. After the first dance, I was approached by my MOH and she informed me that she was having a seizure, and I ran to grab 2 paramedics that are related to me. There was also 2 nurses in there with her. The paramedics instructed me to call 911, so I did, and fire showed up to deal with her. After everything, they came back out and informed me that she was faking it. We continued on with the wedding after, but the vibe was gone and people started leaving. We tried to keep it going with bouquet toss and such, but there were only children there to catch it. My brother also missed the rest of the reception because she needed his attention. I started to clean up and she came up to me and gave me and my husband a half-sobbed apology. I don't know if I have been holding a grudge against her for too long though. I haven't talked to her since. My husband and mom have forgiven her, but my dad and I haven't. Thank you in advance. TLDR, my brother's girlfriend faked a seizure at my wedding, and I haven't talked to her since. Stories number 8. I, 23F, stopped relying on my husband, 25M, and I think it's making things worse. Advice? I'm sure you all have heard similar stories. My husband, despite multiple discussions over the past 2 years, never takes initiative in chores or anything in our lives. I'm constantly the one reminding him and asking him to do things, and when I don't, it doesn't get done. He told me he started hating me because of it about 6 months ago, so we both had an agreement that I will stop telling him what to do as long as he starts following up with his promises. I followed up on my end of the promise and he didn't within a few days. We agreed that since I wake up first to work out, then make breakfast, he wakes up with our kid and takes her to daycare before work. After work, I pick up our kid and make dinner and manage the bedtime routine, and he cleans the kitchen while I do that. Every single day, I walk out after bedtime to the kitchen not being touched. It's so disappointing and hurtful. Usually, I get upset at him and tell him that I really want the kitchen cleaned every day, and he just brushes me off saying he will do it the morning. 25% of the time he does. But since we had the agreement, I stopped. I just pretended to ignore the mess and would get ready for bed, because by then I would have to get up in 7 hours. I let him be responsible for the mess, because that's what we agreed on. 2 months later, and our kitchen was always a mess. Constantly, we would have molded food on the stove, next to the sink, crumbs everywhere on the floor. So I gave up and started cleaning whenever I had time. I learned to cook and clean at the same time. Stressful with a child, but I learned. Most of the time, there were a week worth of dishes, and we have no dishwasher, so it took me a long time to catch up on washing the dishes. After bedtime, usually I'd be the only one cleaning. He would be laying in bed, even though I wake up 2 hours before he does. He would literally yell at me about how I let the dishes get so stinky whenever he did wash the dishes, even though he agreed that he's responsible for cleaning after dinner. So, I stopped relying on him and just started taking care of everything on my own. It's been 2 months of that mindset, and I find it harder to respect him now. He seems like a child to me, always complaining about everything and never puts effort, always too tired and grumpy. Today, I was very excited because my husband brought up the idea of a movie night date. He never brings up date ideas or plans them, so it made me so hopeful. He said he would rent a movie, and after bedtime we would watch it. I made a fancier dinner and put our kid down. Kid took a little longer to go down, but I was fine with it because I figured he would clean today so we can have a movie night. I was wrong. He didn't even bother to close the lids on the pans on the stove. He just turned off the lights in the kitchen. It felt like my heart broke, and I cleaned the kitchen myself again. He walked out, didn't say a word, and watched YouTube videos at the counter. Once I was done cleaning, we went to the bedroom, and he just laid down and went to sleep. It hurt so much. I was so hopeful this time. He gets mad at me that I don't treat him like a man, but he never shows me he's reliable. I'm always hurt by his actions. Anyway, any advice on what I should do? First of all, I did not expect the post to blow up. Thank you to everyone who gave their advice. I tried to read every reply. I have been asked a lot for an update, so I'll just give what's happening now. I didn't leave him. Yet, at least. After that post, I had a surge of confidence and really was planning on leaving him. Suddenly, though, he woke up one morning and it was like he was a different man. I'm not exaggerating, he was drastically different. He made breakfast for me while I was working out, he helped with making lunch and kept kissing me and sent me off to waft work with an "I love you." I thought for sure it would stop by the time he got home later, but it didn't. He went from a man who was angry every morning and angry when he came home from work to a sweet and loving man, overnight. It was weird at first, but after a full week of being shown affection to, all my plans for leaving crumbled, and I was lost. He started working overtime, and I started working part-time, so the issues of house chore divide ceased. Plus, he cleaned the kitchen now, while I put the child down, which was the main issue. It's been 3 weeks, and I feel like I'm living in a dream. And I have no idea what to do. I still haven't told him that I plan to leave him. I don't know if I will or not. I can't help but feel suspicious. Like there's some hidden motive to this. He even planned a date night and showed me affection after. He never does that. I keep expecting for his usual aggression to pop out of nowhere. Sometimes he still looks at me with those scary eyes, but he doesn't talk or do anything aggressive anymore. I feel unsettled by all this in a way. My mental health has been spiraling too. I just feel so lost. Today, he was upset because I slept in, and it's making me feel so anxious for some reason. He wasn't aggressive or yelling, but I'm scared to piss him off, and he will go back to how he was. So that's where I'm at right now. Thank you for everyone who took the time to help me, and I'm sorry if this update wasn't what you hoped for. Stories number 9. They always forget about the IT department. This one is from a few years ago, but I was reminded of it today, so figured I'd share. My desk used to be near our help desk, which was handy because they could easily come around the corner and ask me questions as needed. It was also a great spot for listening for drama going on. One day, I'm working and hear one of our guys talking with a client. Everything was going fine until I hear him ask, "Wait, aren't we in the same building? Call me back later if you're still having issues." He hung up and let us know that his caller had said her building was being evacuated because of a bomb threat. Then he realized that we're all in the same building. No one had alerted us yet. We were standing there trying to figure out if we should evacuate too, when I look over and see people streaming out of the fire exit just outside our office and suggested we do the same. Everything ended up fine. It was a false alarm, but one of our next projects was setting up an alert software that would notify people on their desk phones if an issue like that came up again. Stories number 10. Aggressively flirtatious boomer wants to know if I have my nipples pierced. Says I need to have children to complete my life. So, I'm 32 and work with all men. I obviously have a large chest and can't hide that, but I never wear anything low-cut. Boomer is trying to flirt with me and keeps stepping closer as I keep stepping away and asks about my tattoos. I don't like talking about tattoos, so I try to keep it short. He has me cornered at this point and is looming over me. He was like 6'5", and makes a point to stare directly at my chest, asking if I have anything pierced. Oh no. Then he asks me if I have a husband and kids, I'm child-free and just have a boyfriend. And says having children is the biggest honor a woman can have in her life. He keeps making intimate innuendos and says he wouldn't mind impregnating a woman, but at his age, he can't raise a child. So obviously has a breeding fetish and wants me to know he wants to knock me up and have me raise his kid myself. Also, he let me know that celebrities and rich politicians are kidnapping children and drinking their blood. Like, bro, first of all, I'm not ruining my piercings by getting pregnant. Second, I'm in no position to be a single mother. Third, why the hell do you think I would bring a child into this world when you just told me people are waiting to kidnap said baby to drink its blood? I was literally dying. Edit, it was a customer, not a coworker. Stories number 11. Got text dumped out of the blue by the woman I thought I'd marry this morning. Struggling isn't the word. I, 34M, met this woman, 34F, a little less than 2 years ago on Hinge. Hit it off instantly, fell hard fast. She matched everything I put in, etc. We'd gotten to the stage where we were starting to pack our places up ahead of moving in together. I'd bought a ring and was in the process of figuring out when I'd propose, talking about kids, etc. It felt like I'd found my person, you know? She'd been a little off the last week or so, a little distant compared to normal. I did bring it up and ask what was going on, but she put it down to stress from work, and I believed her, because I love her. Made sure to give her space while reminding her that I loved her and was here for her, etc. Spent the weekend together. Everything was fine, great even. Then this morning, I wake up to a message saying she was done, that she does have strong feelings for me, but they're not the same feelings I have for her, and that she's not feeling a relationship anymore. Literally went from "good night, I love you, I can't wait for the rest of our lives," literal copy-paste from last text last night, to "I'm breaking up with you" in 2 messages, and about 7 ers. I get it. She's obviously made her decision sometime in the last week, and if that's how she feels, that's how she feels. But the fact that she acted like everything was fine over the weekend, then did it via a faking text message and didn't even give us a chance to work through it. I dunno. Worst part is this wasn't my first serious relationship, nor was it hers. I should know how to deal with this, but I don't. I'm so fucking lost right now. I don't know how to process this. Stories number 12. Buying something online direct from the manufacturer can sometimes give discounts you won't find on Amazon. For the last couple of years, I have really gotten over buying things on Amazon. I won't bog down this post in the many reasons why Amazon isn't great. I try to buy in person to stimulate my local economy, but it's not uncommon you'll need something that isn't sold in a nearby retail store. Amazon requires all of its sellers to have the Amazon price be the lowest across the internet, including eBay, Walmart, their own website, etc. If Amazon finds that they're not compliant in this, they will remove the buy option from the item page, thus massively decreasing Amazon sales for that item, which would be big trouble for many independent sellers. Amazon has notoriously large distributor fees, so this actually raises the price of goods across all websites. As I've been ordering from manufacturer websites, I've noticed discounts being added after something has been applied to my cart. The item is listed for the same price as Amazon, but then a discount is added to the cart, and I'm actually saving a good bit of money. This obviously doesn't happen every time. Oftentimes, I don't need something shipped in 2 days, which has not been a guarantee for me anyway, and the company usually has much better customer service to work with if they have a shopping infrastructure on their website. I've never had a problem with returns, and I usually don't need to since I don't ever get a wrong or damaged item like from Amazon sometimes. You don't have to come at me in the comments if you still want to shop at Amazon. Just sharing my experiences with alternatives. Stories number 13, AITA, for not taking my kids to the air show where my wife's new affair partner will be working. I found out a week ago that my wife has been having an affair with a coworker. They both work at our regional airport. He's an assistant manager and she is head of HR, funnily enough. This weekend is the big annual air show. F-35s, Thunderbirds, the whole 9. Both my wife and her lover will be there working. My in-laws have come in from 1 state over and were excited to take my kids, 8 and 5, to see the show. I said absolutely not. I don't want my children anywhere near the man that's essentially tearing our family apart. My wife freaked out on my calling me irrational and selfish for ruining what would be a fun time for the kids, and that it was rude to her in-laws who drove all this way and were really looking forward to it. I said that she only has herself to blame. Had she not had an affair, this wouldn't be an issue. This is the first repercussion of her actions that she's had to face, as this is so new. As a side note, I intend to take the kids go-kart racing instead, so they'll still have a great day, but edit to add, didn't think this would get this traction. Thanks for the input. Just wanted to add a couple details I left out. The grandparents know about the affair. I did invite them to come karting. The air show is an annual event that they've been to for the last 3 years. We live 3 miles from the airport, so we can watch it from the backyard Saturday. Their plan was to go Sunday, but now we'll be karting, so they're not completely missing out on the planes. Stories number 14. I have 2 weeks to get away from my husband. Throwaway account, as my husband and in-laws are follow my main. I, 29F, have been married to my husband, 30 Menners, who I'll call Alex. Alex and I met in college during our freshman year. We started off as just friends and got married 7 months ago. I've gotten along with his family, but we aren't super close, but we're friendly enough. The problem is that Alex has begun to make me incredibly uncomfortable. Firstly, he's begun to ask me who I'm meeting with, where, what we plan on doing, how long every single time I leave the house without him. At first, I just thought he was being protective and a good partner just in case something happened, but then he started checking my phone after the visits, vetting and researching each of my friends as well. He also has been pursuing me to link my bank account to his, as he's in charge of the finances when he was perfectly fine with keeping them separate before. We fight about it almost every day. Finally, yesterday when he was preparing to go on a work trip for 2 weeks in California, he demanded I wear a tracker so he could keep an eye on me while he's gone. I can't do this anymore. I feel like I'm suffocating. And his family, who I've spoken to about his worrying behavior, just said he's being careful and protective as a good husband should. I need to gather my things together and find a way to be gone before he gets home without tipping him off. He's always threatened that if he ever found me cheating on him, he'd turn in divorce papers the same day. He keeps a filled-out copy in his desk. I'm going to submit those the day I leave. But there's so much to do: Bergen, finding a new place to live, seeing if my job has any transfers available, packing and moving in 2 weeks. His return flight May 11th, so I need to move quickly. I'm posting here because I don't have any close family, and I can't risk dragging my friends into this, as we share the same friends. I just needed a place to vent and ask if anyone has any advice on the easiest and safest way to do this. Edit. Oh my god, you guys are amazing. I never even thought to not use his divorce papers. I'll check for cameras before I start any packing or prepping. I may also shred his divorce papers just in case and look into getting a lawyer for myself. I'm in a no-fault divorce state, that much I so remember, which will help. I'll update again when I know more. The tracker he wants me to use is a small clip to put on the belt or waistband. I'll wear it unless I'm going or doing something related to me leaving. No pets yet, thankfully. Update 1, 2 days later. So, I've gotten a lot of support and helpful advice, along with questions I thought I should clarify before I proceed with the update. Some asked why I'd be hiding things from Alex regarding going out and who I'm meeting with. I don't, and I have nothing to hide. However, when he begins to then double-check everything I tell him with the other people there, right down to each person I talked to and what I said. Did I send any text messages? Did I order food? How much did I eat? That's when it started to feel like I was slowly being pushed into a corner. It didn't start that bad, but gradually grew worse over time. All of the Reddit subs my in-laws' families are part of are related gardening and day, so I highly doubt they'll see this. If so, by the time they do, I'll hopefully be gone. I talked to my job and explained things to my manager. And they promised to look into openings in other states to see if they could get me into one. They'll have an update on that in 3 days. I trust that my bank account is secured, considering he's tried to get into it before and failed. I found one camera in the kitchen, another in the living room, and one in our bedroom. As such, I've left them in place for now, and done all other planning, either in the bathroom, pretending I'm taking a bath. I'm honestly staying away from the domestic violence services, as my sister-in-law is unfortunately higher up in those, considering she volunteers there, and I have a feeling if I did show up there, they would know in a heartbeat. I can't look for apartments until I get the update from my work, but either or I'm still going to be leaving the state. The day before I do, I will be changing my number carrier and wiping my laptop and all of his electronics before I do. I've met with 2 lawyers so far and had them look over the paperwork. My husband had prepared and both said that it did. It have some clauses in it that could have caused me some trouble down the line. What alarmed all of us, close the fact that several of those clauses dealt with future children, and not as a hypothetical. Like several hair suggested, I have a feeling he fully intended on getting me pregnant to keep me trapped and tied to him. There are 3 other locations my job could send me to, and I have, as a precaution, begun looking into all 3 cities and housing in the areas. Just in case one of those, this is the one they send me to. Even if they don't have an opening that they can push me into, then I will just have to quit, move, and figure things out on my own. I have enough money to live and survive for a few months until I can pick up another job. Unfortunately, all of our friends are mutual and would likely be unaware of the consequences of saying or sharing anything I do or say with my husband. I don't have any surviving close family, and obviously me-in-laws are not a good resource to rely on. I am on my own, unfortunately, other than the wonderful bonds I've begun to make here. I will update again if I get more information or something else happens. Otherwise, I'll update when my work gets back to me. I do plan on leaving before he returns though, just to make sure that I'm not anywhere near here at that time. Update 2. 1 day later. Good news. My work has an opening I qualify for that will not only shift me across the country, but also comes with a salary increase as well. I've started telling my in-laws and friends that I'm planning a surprise outing for when my husband gets back for just the 2 of us. This way, people don't give me odd looks if they see me out and about. I've even gone as far as asking MIL to show me his favorite recipes. Meanwhile, I found a moving company that, while small, is willing to work in a storm. The reason is, in 5 days, we're supposed to get hit with a large storm front. I plan to shut off the breaker and say we lost power if he asks, just as several people here suggested, and even send him a short clip of the storm. I will have all of my stuff move that afternoon, and I will be flying out once the weather has cleared enough to do so. I have a lawyer who will push my divorce through, and I've filled out the necessary paperwork so that I don't have to be here for it. I'm not suing for assets or alimony, and I've shredded his divorce papers as well. I've set up a cheap payphone plan through Cricket until this is all said and done, at which point I will find a new carrier, number, and phone. This one is being wiped and left behind. My laptop is provided by my work, and the IT department inspected it thoroughly, and it was clean, thankfully. No other electronic aside from my laptop and new phone will be coming with me. If Alex needs to talk to me, he can do it through my lawyer. Not sure if anything else will happen. My fingers are crossed that he doesn't think anything's amiss until after I leave, and I'm not turning the breaker back on when I do. He can when he gets home. My work is covering the plane ticket, so that at least is one expense I don't have to finagle in. Update 3. 7 days later. It's been a busy week, but I've gotten so much done. Firstly, I am now out of the house and am currently in a hotel while I look for an apartment. It's a big city, bustling with people no matter where you look. We had a pretty bad storm system hit back home that actually lasted 2 days. High winds, thunder, lightning, and even hail everywhere. I didn't take much from the house: my documents, clothes, and important sentimental items. I left all of the furniture and electronics behind. I cleaned the house top to bottom and took pictures on my phone so he couldn't claim I damaged anything when I left. My lawyer has already started divorce proceedings, and my husband will be served on the 8th. His plane is due to land early morning, and the sheriff will be there at the house waiting for him. He is very much about public appearances and reputation. My lawyer will be calling him as well to inform him that I am more than willing to air out everything to the public about his actions if it means securing my freedom from him. I will go to court as long as I must to get this pushed through. I haven't told our friends or his in-laws yet. I will do that while he is on the flight to prevent him from getting wind of it before he's handed the divorce papers. I will be calling around and explaining why we're getting divorced to try and prevent him from twisting this into somehow being my fault. I don't want him trying to claim I had an affair or something, so I want to get the truth out before he can twist this. I'm doing okay. I'm tired, but yet I feel almost jittery and off-kilter. I keep looking over my shoulder and monitoring what I say, even when I don't really need to anymore. Hopefully that will fade soon. My work is covering the cost of the hotel, and I'm working on getting my other things in order. I also need to find a new GP, as I want to get a full test just to make sure everything is okay. I don't know when my next update will be, probably when the divorce papers are filed, or if we have to go to court to push them through. I will try to keep my head up, but it feels like I'm in a whirlwind or something, with so many things to do and think about. I kinda thought it would be easier once I got out of the house, but while the fear is smaller, somehow the number of tasks only seems to have grown. Update 4. 7 days later. Sorry I haven't updated for a while. Things got hectic and a bit chaotic, honestly. Firstly, I'm working on getting an apartment still, and have applications in at 3 different places, and will hopefully hear back from them soon. I'm still going into work here at the new location, so I don't have to worry about burning through my emergency savings completely. I've gotten a lot of emails from Alex, his family, and our old friend group asking question after question. I have only sent one return email to Alex, explaining that I don't believe we are truly compatible, and it is best we separate now. That his treatment of me, when I'd done nothing to deserve as such, was just as much of a deal-breaker as cheating was for him. I ended the email with the statement that I would not be contacting him further, and anything else he needed to pass on to me, or vice versa, would be done through my lawyer. For his family and friends, I just typed up one email outlining everything that had happened and why I left. I told them I wished them no ill will, but that such treatment of his wife and partner was not acceptable. That should Alex get remarried in the future, I wish they would help support both partners and not just Alex. Alex, from what my lawyer told me, was livid when he was served. The sheriff actually ended up booking him for assault on an officer and menacing due to the threats he was shouting. His father bailed him out in a few hours, but with the testimony of the sheriff, my lawyer believes I have a very good chance at getting a restraining order. Alex, upon returning to the house, apparently lost his temper again, breaking the dining table into pieces as well as the TV, and putting several holes in the walls. At least, that's what one of the emails from one of our friends reported, as Alex called him to help him clean up the mess. My lawyer already has pictures of the house I took, with timestamps as evidence nothing had been damaged by me. My friend reported that Alex tried to claim I'd been the one to trash the house, but the holes in the wall were at head height. Alex is 6'3" and I'm 5'4", so he knew that was false. Either way, taking the pictures definitely will help me. So again, thank you everyone here for the advice, because I never would have thought of that on my own. My work won't share details of where I am, as I do work with some higher-end clientele who value security, and that information won't be gossiped about. And no, I'm not some stripper or escort. I deal with contracts, notary, and business management. As such, even if Alex tried to use my work to find me, he wouldn't succeed. Update. 12 days later. It's been a little bit, and I thought I'd answer some questions before giving my update. It may be a while after this until things change. Firstly, no, I didn't bring my car. The public transport here is good enough to use without needing one. I have secured an apartment, and the building has good security. You need a key card to enter, and there is a security guard at a desk right by the entrance to the building. As part of my contract, I gave them a photo of Alex and his family so that even in the off chance they do find me, they won't be let in. The responses I got from the emails varied. His family said I was overreacting and that I owe Alex an apology for the problems this has caused him. The pending criminal charges puts him at risk of losing his job if he's convicted. Alex sent a long email, apologizing and pleading for me to come home. He said he was worried for me, that he is willing to go to therapy if it will appease me. He wants us to remain together, and he didn't think leaving was an appropriate response to his genuine concern and worry for my health and safety. The friends gave somewhat lacking replies, saying that they didn't think Alex was ever going to hurt me, and that I shouldn't be letting my imagination run away wild. As much as I want to say I was surprised by the lack of support, I'm honestly not. He intends to fight the divorce. I am letting my lawyer handle it, and I am also pursuing a protective order as well. Once I got approved for my apartment, I also froze my credit. I've changed my phone carrier and number, as well as making sure none of my documents list Alex as next of kin or POA. Some have asked why I was so paranoid about Alex and his possible future actions. The answer for that actually is somewhat simple. My grandmother. I loved that woman to bits. As a teen, she explained why my grandfather was never around. He was extremely abusive and manipulative, and her generation didn't allow divorce really. She wouldn't have been able to buy a house or get a good enough job to support her and my mother on her own. As such, she endured it, shielded my mom as she could, until my grandfather died. When I felt like I may have been overreacting, I remembered how she'd said she'd always wished she'd been able to see grandfather for what he was early on when she may have been able to annul the marriage. I don't know when I'll update again, maybe when the divorce goes through or if something big happens, but until then, I'm just trying to keep my head above the water. Update. 1 month later. It's been a month since my previous update, and I wanted to share some of what's been going on in the meantime. The divorce is proceeding, but even though I don't need him to agree, and he's not, it means I have to go through the courts to get it approved. As such, it could be upwards of 6 months to push it through, even though I'm filing without attempting to claim property, alimony, or compensation. I just want a clean break and separation. Alex has attempted to use our friends to reach out to me, as he doesn't want to use my lawyer for communication. He's saying it's disrespectful and cowardly to hide behind my lawyer and not meet him face to face. Alex wrote me a letter that he did pass off to my lawyer. But the contents were him justifying his actions and claiming that in today's time, it is dangerous for women to be on their own, which is why he was so intent on trying to keep me safe from harm. He wanted me to understand that he was trying to protect me as best he could, and was hurt that I would just lie to him and hide my actions from him related to my dissatisfaction with our marriage and my moving. I didn't reply, because at no point did he apologize. All he did was turn everything around on me as I was being overly dramatic, emotional, and cowardly. There was a second letter with Alex's from my seal. Her letter was honestly disturbing and completely justified my misgivings regarding approaching her in any kind of professional capacity. She spent 5 paragraphs detailing how a real abusive relationship looked like, and that Alex was the furthest thing from abusive. The details she included were all related to financial abuse and physical abuse. Nothing like what Alex had been doing. She stated that my attempts to smear her brother's name for attention and clout made me the abuser, not him. I haven't really been able to process that, admittedly. Part of me can't help but wonder if she's right. I mean, I blindsided him by leaving as I did, and I'm refusing to speak with him at all. My old boss recommended that I look into getting into therapy after I moved, and I think I need to. I have had a hard time adjusting to being on my own. I keep censoring myself and haven't even gone out to eat yet. I always end up worrying about what if someone sees me, what if I get in trouble for spending my money on something frivolous. My lawyer is continuing to fight for the divorce, and I shouldn't need to be physically present in court. Any meetings needed between me and the judge can be done via Zoom. I'm trying to avoid confrontation with Alex and his family for now as much as I can, and passed both letters to my lawyer in case he needs them. Our friends are mostly trying to avoid taking sides still, and I'm honestly approaching the point of just letting them go as well. I'm tired of fighting for them to understand at this point. I don't know if anything is going to happen, so my next update may not be until around mid-November, depending on how long it takes to push the divorce through. Work is going well, and it's helpful to have something familiar to anchor my day-to-day life when so much has changed and is changing even now. New update. Divorce proceeding update. It's been a while since I last updated, as I needed to let the court step in as Alex was not willing to grant my request for a divorce. We started with mediated session via Zoom, but after 4 sessions it was decided that no compromise could be reached between us. The things Alex was pushing for were one thing I'm not even willing to humor, let alone agree to. He wanted me to tell our friends and those I'd sent the information to about his actions that I'd made it up in order to gain sympathy. He also wanted me to pay him for defamation and suffering, especially the wages he lost because of sitting in jail for 2 days and missing work before getting bailed out. Lastly, he also wanted me to return, and to quote him, "Stop my foolish behavior and act like a proper wife and partner." Yeah, no. So, needless to say, our mediated sessions went absolutely nowhere. The judge isn't seeming to buy into Alex's act, thankfully, because he certainly tried. It took me far too long to see Alex for who he was. And part of me feels like an idiot because I didn't see it at all. Yet, the judge seemed to clock him for exactly what he is within the first meeting. Maybe I just didn't want to see it. I don't know. Alex ended up arguing with the judge a lot, even being held in contempt 4 different times. I think it's honestly why this moved as quick as it did. It didn't help that Alex tried to pull in his family as character witnesses, but they were dismissed by the judge as the abuse wasn't seen or heard by them. And as such, they only knew part of Alex's character. In his closing statement after he approved the divorce, he went on to call Alex a narcissist, and that if Alex loved himself so much to abuse the one he'd married, to let the divorce happen and marry a mirror next. I didn't think a judge was allowed to say that. At all. But my lawyer just shook his head and told me not to say anything, so we left. So here's the update I'm sure everyone's been hoping for and guessed. I'm officially divorced. The documents were processed 3 days ago, and I'm still in disbelief. I have no contact with Alex any longer, nor do I want any. I'm not going to give our friends my new contact information. I may not have replied to everyone, though I tried, but I did read all of your comments. I really did. Your repeated statements about how they weren't actually friends really helped me see that they weren't. So I decided that since I moved far from that place, I needed to start over. New home, new place, new friends. It's slow, and I've started therapy though. It took almost 3 months to get it due to the usual wait times, but I've been going 3 times a week ever since. It's helping, even with things I thought were done and dusted. Alex didn't take the divorce well according to my lawyer, who's been keeping up with him to make sure he stays away from me. He did something at work, I don't know what, as obviously I have no way to gain that information, but whatever it was cost him his job. My lawyer also did something I didn't expect him to, but something I think everyone will like. He took the letter my ex Sil sent me and forwarded it to the domestic violence organization she works for, along with an informal statement regarding Alex, his actions, and the decision of the judge. She's been let go as well, and given how tight those organizations are with one another, my lawyer said that the likelihood of her getting a position at another is slim to none. I actually laughed, though I was a bit teary, when he said that, and that Slim is on a leaky rowboat to China. I've been crying a lot lately, but my therapist says it's normal and shows I'm actually processing things instead of bottling them up and pushing them down. I'll try to update in a month or so, if my emotions level out some, to explain a few more of the details, but I wanted to get this out there, and thank everyone for their continued support and encouragement. I appreciate each and every one of you. I really do. You gave me the hope that leaving him wasn't going to be this giant black mark I'd never heal from or move on from. Work is going well, and the sense of normality and routine is helping me avoid feeling like everything has been spiraling out of control. Stories number 15. Just found out my kid's Spanish teacher doesn't know Spanish. They seemingly randomly placed my daughter in a guitar class which she had no interest in and was not getting a good grade in. I decided to email the school to see what could be done, since guitar seems like a class for specific kids that actually want to learn how to play, which my daughter does not. They ended up moving her to Spanish instead, which she was happy about. 2 weeks in, and my daughter told me the teacher didn't know how to speak Spanish and everyone was getting a D or F in the class. Since she's 13, I assumed she was exaggerating, but decided to email the school again just to see what they said. Apparently, my daughter wasn't exaggerating at all, and the lady really does not know Spanish, and the school is well aware. They told me that they encourage the students to use Google Translate during class, but my daughter said the teacher doesn't allow it during a test, and everything on the test is in Spanish, most of which they haven't been taught at all as far as the instructions and stuff go. I'm also told that she won't let the kids go to the bathroom unless they ask in Spanish, and then the teacher can't even tell them how to ask in Spanish unless she uses Google Translate. Apparently, the Spanish teacher can only speak English and French. I also found out that my niece, who is a straight A student and will get upset if she gets a B or even a low A on anything, has the same teacher and currently has a D in the class, and it's one of the highest grades in her class, but the school doesn't see that there is a problem. Stories number 16. My mother, 53, kicked me, 22, out of the house, and I don't know what to do. Hello, I hope someone out there can help me. Any tips, advice, resources, literally anything will be of help. For some context, my mother, let's call her Penelope, and I have had a tumultuous relationship, but when we moved into our apartment, I provided her with the whole deposit. When I worked, I helped pay for whatever was needed and also gave her gas money, etc. Last year, she moved her boyfriend, let's call him Dan, in without consulting me. No, he is not on the lease. Ever since he moved in, he's caused more of a divide between us. He has done multiple things to make me uncomfortable. Dan would be in Penelope's bedroom and turn down the television to hear my phone conversations that I'm having in my room, then would go tell Penelope what I was talking about. Has hidden Penelope's medication from her. This happened at least 4 times that I know of. Would not speak to me if we were in the same room, but if Penelope was in the room, he would randomly acknowledge me, was unhygienic with food and as a person, has lied about things that I have proof of, will take whatever food Penelope cooked so that there's none left for me, and has a preconceived notion that I do not like him. I have a history with SA that Penelope knows about, so I am naturally weary of men, especially Dan, since Penelope literally moved him in without introducing us. When he spoke, I would reply, but it would almost never go beyond that. I don't talk much to people I'm not comfortable with, so I am reserved/quiet. Dan reads this as me walking around with an attitude. For the past year, I don't shower unless my boyfriend comes over, or unless I have a weapon in the bathroom with me. I can't have phone conversation unless I take them outside. I've been to the hospital multiple times over the heart palpitations and chest pains, but all tests come back fine, and I get told it's probably anxiety or stress. Either way, things came to a head a few days ago when Penelope and I got into an argument. She pushed me in my chest, knowing I have heart palpitations, chest pain issues, so I pushed her away to 1. Get her away from me because it looked like she was going to push me again. And 2, because the push hurt my chest. She said in my face verbatim, I don't give a F about you. You're not my effing daughter. You were never my daughter. I don't give a F about what happens to you. And shortly after said she was going to call the cops on me, but didn't. My boyfriend brought my grandmother over to help calm things, but Penelope was not cooperative. She was able to tell how she felt, but the moment I talked, she constantly interrupted me when no one did that to her. My grandmother tried to get her to see that she was in the wrong, but Penelope in return made my grandmother feel bad about how she was raised. During this talk, my boyfriend never spoke because he was there as emotional support. Dan was in her bedroom and came out to add his 2 cents. Please keep in mind I have the whole voice recording of the talk. Dan didn't add anything, he basically described what already happened. I snapped on him and said that he didn't know anything about my heart condition. He said, it don't get nothing to do with anything. Penelope called my phone and said I can come back. But I can't. Dan has made living there hell for me. Ever since she moved him in, I've been uncomfortable. It transitioned into anxiety and stress because of the arguments and tension. Either way, I'm left here alone. I'm crashing at my boyfriend's mom's house for the next few days. My father lives in CT, and I'm really considering moving back up there, even though I don't want to leave my boyfriend. I don't have a driver's license. No one has taught me how to drive. I'm not working, but I always put in applications, even for jobs I don't want. All I can do is keep applying and wait to hear back. The shelters down here are known to be very sketchy, and I don't want to be put in a position to be hurt and traumatized further. At this point, I no longer want a relationship with her. I just want any help or for someone to point me in the right direction. For months, I've been on edge, scared, and anxious, and right now, even though I have no idea what to do next or where I'm going to go, this is the most relief I've felt in so long. My chest is still tight with anxiety, but I don't know if there's medication for that or not, but I'm okay. I think I'm still numb, but I think I just need some help on what to sow. Anything is useful and helpful, even if it's just kind words or encouragement. Thank you for reading. Stories number 17. How I knew my partner actually would help me. 2 years ago, I started having very horrible pains. My partner works within bioengineering, and I do governmental statistics. He got me to the hospital when I started to throw up because of the pain. He got me to the ER because I looked both pale and I had a very high temperature. When I asked and told them, they gave me water and apple juice. They thought I hadn't eaten and just had a low glucose count because of that. He insisted that I was in pain. He 100% advocated for me because the doctor did not believe me and said that it might just be monthly pain. I could have died unless my partner, who had taken care of me for like 3 to 4 hours, had not insisted. I was terrified in pain, throwing up, being questioned about monthly, and if it were not for my partner, I might have died. Bitabu, this is in a Northern European country. Stories number 18. I blew up my friend's life because she was dating a married man. My friend Sarah, 24, has a history of just fully believing men and anything they say to her. Her ex constantly cheated on her and would lie. Sarah literally had all the evidence she needed, and she still believed him. I am talking chats between him and a girl talking about the hookup, and Sarah chalked it up as a miscommunication. Fast forward a few years, and we talk every once in a while. Still, Sarah is working for a local PD office and always telling me about the hot male cops. After a year, she leaves one station and goes to work for a station a few towns over. During this time, one of her old cop colleagues, Zach, M29, reaches out to her. He starts to tell her that his marriage is over, and if it weren't for the kids, he would have divorced her already. Says they have had a dead bedroom for over a year now, can't get along, yada yada. To be fair, Zach was a military man for a few years and got married young, so for her, this was 100% believable. She didn't find him attractive at first, but after a few months of him pursuing her, she finally gave in. Here's a little bit of side info. Sarah has a STI that you can never get rid of. It is with you for life. She takes this very seriously and always talks to guys even before kissing them, since a lot of people would rather not risk it. She also wants to make sure the men are not sleeping with anyone else, since she does not trust the men to tell their other partners. So before she did anything, she sat this grown man down and explained everything. Zach promised he would only be with her. They start fully dating, aka he is sneaking around his wife and coming over after shifts for a few hours, then leaving. Zach booked trips for just his wife and kids to go on so he can spend the weekend with my friend. Sarah catches real feelings and starts pressuring him to file for divorce. Of course, now it's all about the kids and how he can't risk losing them. Telling her he met with a divorce lawyer and he can't afford one right now. All that BS I could see coming from miles away. Sarah needs a break, so she comes visiting me for a weekend and she asks me for advice. I am not proud of it, but I started giving her the worst advice. When she comes, we do a quick Google search, run a background check, and find out where he lives, his home phone number, his wife's cell number, everyone's social media pages, her family, and so on. I tell her to start going to his house to see if he's lying to her. Start stalking her social media pages. So she will show up on the wife's side as a friend's suggestion. Start calling and texting him whenever. They had rules on when she could do that. She takes all of this advice. It took less than a week for his wife to find out. Wife calls her and tells her that everything Zach said was a lie, and they did not in fact have a dead bedroom, and she thought they were in a very happy marriage. The wife tells Sarah not to worry, she can have him, as she is going to file for divorce. Sarah of course does not want him either, now, so she blocks him and sends his wife all the info she needs to prove he cheated. Now both their lives are blown up, The worst part is it has affected both their careers. Since it is the PD of small towns near each other, everyone found out what happened. I am feeling a bit guilty. Zach was up for a really big promotion and got passed on it. She was pretty much harassed into leaving her job and now probably has to switch careers or move. I wished I had pushed Sarah to call the wife or given better advice so this wouldn't have exploded so much in her face. Stories number 19. KY elderly mom forced to sign will. My dad died recently, and right before he died, my brother and his wife came over and bullied the heck out of my mother, age 86, when she was at her weakest. He brought his personal lawyer to my mom's house and had her sign a will and some other paperwork. My brother has always had a substance abuse problem, and I'm rightly concerned that this will doesn't represent my parents' wishes at all. My brother is close friends with the police, and when I demanded that he give my mom a copy of the will, he threatened to harm me. Certainly wouldn't be the first time. It's my understanding that my mother called the lawyer who told her that she would have to deal with my brother. From what I've read in this sub, it sounds like pressuring someone to sign a will can in some cases mean the will is not valid. My mom never received a copy of the will and doesn't know what's in it. My brother has blocked her phone number and will not communicate. Any advice or direction appreciated. Stories number 20. She friend-zoned me and got mad at me for blocking her after. Hey guys, new Reddit person thing. Anyway, I have a nice little story for you guys that I hope you will enjoy. About 3 years ago, I, 25 male, had feelings for a girl we'll call Megan. She, 22 female, was nerdy, into anime, and played a lot of video games. It was those traits that made me interested in her. Since I was also an anime lover gamer, over time, that interest turned into genuine attraction. At first, I was hesitant about asking her out because I wasn't sure if she felt the same. But after some encouragement from my friends, I made my move. We met up at a local diner for lunch. The diner was one of those mom-and-pop places and the food was really good. As we're eating, I finally decided to tell her how I felt. Again, I was hesitant about doing so, but went through with it anyway. She seemed receptive at first. She asked me what it was about her that made me interested in her. So I listed a few things: her interest in anime, her taste in video games, her dark sense of humor. Things like that. I didn't want to ask her to be my girlfriend right then and there, so instead I asked if she would be up for getting to know each other more, and maybe going on an actual date or two to see where things go from there. She then goes on to apologize and say that she does like me, but only as a friend. She said that she didn't want to ruin our friendship, and that she didn't want there to be any bad feelings if we did get together, but broke up. Hearing that hurt a bit. Part of me wanted to at least try to convince her to change her mind, but the only words that came out of my mouth were, "Okay, I'm fine with that." We chatted for a little while longer before we left the diner and went our separate ways. I tried to reach out a few times after that day to see how she was doing, but I was either left on read or met with one-word replies. So, after a while, I stopped reaching out. Fast forward about 2 months, I finally met someone new. We'll call her Sophie. Sophie was into art and photography. In her own words, she told stories with her art. Whatever piqued her interest wound up as a painting or sculpture or a framed photograph. She was really good at it, and after a while, those same feelings from months before started to come back. What I didn't expect was for her to feel the same way. I asked her to go on a date with me, and she said yes. Date nights became a regular thing until eventually we made things official. After our 7th date, I asked her if she would like to be my girlfriend, and she said yes. The next day, when I told my friends about it, they were stoked, since they were the ones that pushed me to move on and not let my rejection from months ago bother me. A week later, I'm sitting in my room reading a book when I get a messenger notification. I look and see that it's from Megan. I thought that this was kinda weird, considering the fact that she hadn't spoken to me in months. Out of curiosity, I opened the message. Her message was basically a short paragraph, talking about how after having some time to think, she decided that she actually did want to be my girlfriend. Her message said that she always had feelings for me and that she was ready to give us a chance. Now things started to look even more weird. I mean, really, after all this time, all the one-worded replies and unread messages, now she has feelings? I took a screenshot of her message and sent it to Sophie. After that, I blocked Megan, and I thought that was the end of it. About 2 days later, Megan shows up to my house and she's extremely upset. As I open the door, she starts ripping me a new one, telling me how horrible I am for blocking her after she confessed her feelings for me. I told her that she has no right to be upset about anything, considering the fact that she was the one who rejected me and said that we would never be a thing. She then tries to guilt trip me, asking me if her feelings for me meant anything. I then said, where were those feelings when I was single? I told her that she doesn't get to switch up now that she sees me with someone else and then get upset at me for not going along with it. I told her to have a nice day, and then shut the door. Our friend group is divided on this, and I'm starting to question if I did the right thing or not. I was just a bit upset. It felt like she expected me to just ditch my girlfriend for her, just because she changed her mind. What do you guys think? Stories number 21. Indeed job application stated 50K salary. Got the job offer, but it's now £35. Hey everyone, I recently applied for a job through Indeed that stated it was offering starting salary £50K annually. I went through the interview process and they liked me and offered me the job. Yay, I thought. The offer letter comes through and it's now stating £35K annually. I replied back to ask if it was an error and they said it wasn't. They said they want to see how I perform and then potentially consider a revilement of my pay to £50. I declined the offer because that is a significant cut and they did not state this at all during the interview process. I even asked them verbally when I was in the interview room and they stated 50K. Why do companies do this? Such a waste of time. Alas, the search continues. Edit. I did not expect this post to resonate with so many people. Thanks for the replies. I'll respond individually to people once I have more time after work. I'll go to their Glassdoor page and hopefully help one person who sees it before applying. I will reply to the DMs as much as I can. I had no clue this post would resonate so much. Stories number 22. Am I a bad GF? My boyfriend of 10 months recently got mad at me over me not putting an I in I love you. Hear me out though. I didn't mean to. It was 6 in the morning and I had just woke up. He texted me asking to bring his belt to him and I said, of course, love you. He got very mad and continued to say, I don't need you to grab shit for me, I'm good. Which was in my opinion was rude and overreacting because it's very early in the morning and it's hard to freaking type. And then he did it to me. He said he had to leave love you. I don't understand the double standard. Maybe he was just doing it to me to make me feel bad or something. It kinda hurts my feelings that he's being petty because there's no reason for it, especially with your partner. Am I the bad GF? Stories number 23. Was someone in my house or am I experiencing mental issues? Something odd happened today and I want to put it out there to see if anyone else could come up with a logical explanation. I live in a house with my mom and my dog. Earlier today my mom left the house and went out. I heard her leave, so I am now alone in the house with the dog. About 20 minutes later, I went downstairs to put some dirty clothes in the washing machine. I put the clothes and detergent in, closed the door, and turned the machine on. The machine has a dial that you turn to select your desired washing setting, then you press the on button. It definitely started washing because I heard it make the usual noises and saw the clothes start to spin in the machine. I then got my dog ready to go on a walk, left the house, locked the doors, and went to walk my dog. When I got home an hour later, my mom was still out and had not come home yet. This is 100% confirmed. The washing machine was turned off. Not in the sense that the cycle had finished, but the dial had physically been turned to the off setting. I double-checked, and the clothes inside were still soaking wet, meaning the cycle hadn't finished and the machine was turned off mid-cycle. I have zero explanation for this. The dial does not turn itself automatically, as it's not that type of machine. The only explanation I can think of is either someone else is or was in the house while I was out and switched it off. This is scary because only my mom and I have keys to the house, or I myself switched it off, which is not something I would have chosen to do as it was literally mid-cycle washing my clothes, and have no memory whatsoever of doing so. Both of these are very scary to me. Obviously the possibility of someone else being in the house it's terrifying. And also the fact that I may have subconsciously performed an out-of-character action and have no memory whatsoever of doing it. Does anyone else have a possible explanation? Please note I am 29F, physically healthy, although I could go to the gym a bit more often, and have never been formally diagnosed with mental health issues. Stories number 24, AITA, for calling my grandma a cunt to her face. My grandma, 86F, has always been very negative. It doesn't matter what achievements any of her family reach, she has to ruin it. I, 22F, am the youngest of 8 grandchildren, and I've seen my grandmother's sour attitude ruin every single one of my cousins' big life events and milestones, be it graduating uni, getting married, landing their dream job or promotion, starting their own businesses, having children, or buying a home. Everyone chalks it up to, "That's just how grandma is." Shrug. But it's always made me really angry. My family had a very early Christmas gathering last weekend because it was literally the only weekend before the middle of January that everyone was available. My cousin, 30, was talking about his upcoming dream holiday that he's been planning since he was 12, when my grandma overheard us and started her sour bullshit and asked, "Why would you waste your money on something so stupid?" I saw my cousin completely deflate, and it made me so angry that I snapped. For once in your life, could you try not being a complete fucking cant? After a moment of looking shocked, she stormed off. While my cousin was calming me down, Grandma went around to everyone saying I was rude and disrespectful to her, making a point to tell them all what I'd called her. Now most of my family agrees with me that she's a mean bitch, but they're pissed at me for rocking the boat and calling her a cant. I probably could have chosen my words better, but I was so angry in the moment that I said it without even thinking. AITA. Edit. Some more info for context. This isn't an age thing or a new development. Grandma has been like this all her life. My great-uncle, her older brother, has spoken about how she's always been like this, and my mom, her daughter, has told me how she'd always make negative comments about anything she or my grandpa were interested in or excited about. I didn't have the option to exclude her from the gathering as I didn't plan it. Gentler options like walking away, ignoring her, or asking her to stop haven't worked in the past. She just keeps going and becomes bolder with her nasty comments. We're Aussie. Tant does have negative connotations in certain contexts, but we aren't as strongly against its use as other countries. I don't expect her to change.